Hey Matt, how you doing today?
Hey, Reed, good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for joining on this for the first time.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I actually haven't done one of these live streams to my knowledge. I mean, I do these things with user groups and those sorts of things, but yeah, this is a bit of a novelty for me. So yeah, good to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And outside of like the course conversations today, I'll definitely be happy to have you on sometime to actually do like a regular session where you can share some information on yourself. But for the primary goal today, I know I brought you on because you host Skillwave along with Ken and Miguel, which is where my course is being hosted. So I wanted to just because I've done so many of these this year, rather than just doing like a I don't know a standard kind of marketing pre-recorded video, I wanted to give people who tuned in a chance to actually ask some questions about it and give us maybe a little bit of a chance to walk through both the course that I have and then also just kind of what Skillwave is and what are some of the courses that you guys have been providing as well. I know like initially you kind of approached me back over the summer, really wanting to bring out a course that was focusing more on front end design as far as visuals, somewhat with aesthetics, and also just like the features available to be able to build reports. And I know that there there's nowhere near as many of those types of courses as there are that are DAX or Power Query or modeling, which, more of the hard skills
Yeah.
where there's more clear-cut yes and no answers to like do this, don't do that in a lot of scenarios. And it's something that I have built previously for like the University of Washington, and I built one 3 or 4 years ago for Pact Publishing that at this point is very much showing its age, unfortunately, with any tool that evolves as fast as Power BI. But I'm very happy with like the result that we have that launched last week.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned Skillwave. So, I'm sure some of your audience would be aware. So, yeah. So, Ken Pools, Miguel Escobar, and I set up this company basically. Gee, it's coming up to 12 months now, and really the whole premise of this is that there's a lot to learn, right? So Power BI is
Hmm.
a huge ecosystem. When it started, I mean, if you go back to Power Pivot for Excel, it was very niche, right? It was basically a data modeling tool using the new tabular engine, and you learn some DAX, and it was very niche. And I'm not trying to belittle that. I'm just saying that's the heritage, right? But look at what's happened over the last 6 years, the way it's evolved. There's so many areas that you need to learn if you want to be good. I often get people coming to me and saying, well, where should I start? Well, there's actually so many different places you can start. It doesn't matter. So you could come in and start with Power Query. You could come in and start with data modeling and DAX. You could come in and start with visualization. And the fact is that different people have different base level skills, right? Everyone has their
Hmm.
core underlying skill. And so this is actually the whole premise of skillwave.training, is that we wanted to be able to provide the best quality training experience in each of these areas.
Hmm.
And I don't think I've ever met someone who is excellent at excellent at everything, right? So most people have a primary strength. Some
Yep.
lucky people have a secondary strength, and then it tends to drop off pretty quickly. And so visualization, and this is, as you know, Reed, but this is the first additional training course that we've brought on outside of Ken, Miguel, and myself. So far, it's only a training that we've done, and we really saw this opportunity for visualization. And Ken and Miguel and I were chatting about, like, what are we going to do, because we can't do it. Frankly, I'm not a visualization guy. I can build a report, but we were chatting, and I was saying, well, who are we going to get in? And I said, okay, I had a couple of ideas, and you were at the top of my list, Reed. And so the reason we asked you to do it is that every time I look at your reports, they friggin' knock me out, right? So I look at them and they stand out on the screen, and I don't know, there's just something about it. And there's, I think you have a natural affinity to that sort of thing. And if you can learn the component pieces, we call them the one percenters, right? So
Yeah.
so if you just get your alignment correct, if you just get your spaces between your visuals consistent, if you do this to your headers, the things that I learned actually when I did the training course that you created, then bring them all together, and then all of a sudden you're starting to produce reports that look outstanding, as opposed to something that just is so. So yeah.
And like I think you hit it on the head. There's very often are not a lot of people who can be and they often misuse the quote jack of all trades. No, but the second half of that is if you are jack of all trades, you're master of none. So it's
Yeah,
you'll occasionally most people will have one primary, some people will have two, but like I'm I would say most of my the direction that I ended up taking just because I felt I knew it naturally has been aesthetics. I'm also still, as far as I would say most people in the world, very good at modeling and power query. But I'd say you're probably a little bit better than me at DAX. I know certainly Ken and Miguel, they're like in the savant level when it comes to power query up there with like Chris Webb. But that's because that's the specialty that you guys rely on, and you've also focused a lot on training. So you've sharpened your knife a lot on the methodology of how to teach to make sure that as much of the courses has landed because you've spent the most time on doing that over the last 4 or 5 years now at least. So
yeah,
but you combine all those different
yeah,
disciplines together, in this case with Skillwave, and you're able to then create a cohesive collection of courses that was 3 C's in a row. But overall, it allows people to come in and kind of pick their path, so to speak.
yeah.
The way I've always
I
liked to
mean,
think
look,
about
there's a
it.
lot of
Go ahead.
sorry, just a bit of a lag.
Yeah.
It's a long way to go.
No
This
worries.
this feed. So I think that there's a lot of content available on the web. And in fact, you give away a lot of stuff for free. I give away a
Hmm.
stack of stuff for free. And, I'm always, and we're all always happy to do that. I think the difference between a training course and the stuff that's free on the web is that it's often and should be curated and delivered in such a way
Yeah.
that you can learn incrementally. You can come back and refer to it later on if you need to refresh yourself, because it's often difficult to take away everything, but you sort of just remember, okay, I know that was covered in that course. 6 months later, you remember, and then you go back and have a look and refresh your memory on how to do
Yep.
that. But it's the curation and delivery of the complete quality end-to-end content that I think adds the value. And that's the difference between a paid training course or a good quality paid training course and some sort of random collection of pieces that you can definitely find it on the web. And I'm not criticizing the free stuff, because there's lots of great stuff. But at the end of the day, if you pay for something, you would expect it to be curated and delivered in such a way that it's easy to consume. And so when I actually did your course, I was actually shocked, because unlike perhaps most people on this call or watching after this call, most people have a day job, right? This is my day job, right? So my day job is to monitor the Power BI website, find out the new features, keep up to date, help customers get started in their
Yeah.
organization. So I'm always using the latest stuff. And I was surprised at how many things that I learned from your course that sort of knew about and missed, and skipped over and forgot or completely missed. And it's those things that put together that actually makes the difference in the end, I guess.
Yeah, and even for MVPs, it's still somewhat hard to constantly keep up to date with that. I will say the one thing that's helped is, ever since I ended up, working out and kind of building at least in-person trainings that I have kind of 3 days of training that cover everything front and back. But I also have a lot of slides that kind of bullet the you can and can'ts and all the do's and don'ts of each feature set. So each time I get the monthly update, I will actually go through and make a task list of anything that's new or changed. I will go update those slides. So that's probably one of the few things that honestly helps to make sure that I miss very few items because I'm very diligent on making sure that I don't want to ever like present to somebody, especially in a paid training, and then oh, sorry, yeah, this slide's actually like out of date, but like this thing it says here that this is not relevant anymore. You don't want to have that happen in a paid training. So that I think honestly that gave me more of an incentive than even just being an MVP. Because prior I was in a scenario where I would just kind of skim occasionally, but or sometimes just not have enough time, and I would just kind of forget about reading a monthly update, and then a feature would kind of get shoved under the rug.
Yeah. So, Reed, what's your background? I mean, if you've got an eye for good looking report design. So, and in a way, Miguel Escobar, who's in with Ken and I, he's got that same eye. I mean, And but that's presumably something that you can learn. I mean, you can't learn to have that natural feel, but you can learn the individual steps and processes to be able to recreate the same quality output. But what's your background there? Have you got a bit of a graphic background? Or?
I never did anything formal with design. It's something that I've always just had a knack for. Honestly, like just as a kind of a comparison is most people ask like did I actually do any of the decorating in my place because I have a certain level of care that I put into that. It's something that I just enjoyed and I slowly self-taught myself a lot of that with reporting. I read a couple of books by Edward Tufte and Stephen Few. Now I'm recently reading it's the International IBCS, International Business Communication Standards, which is a standardization
Oh,
of
yeah.
all yeah, and so I just continuously self-teach my
So
myself those
Andre
topics.
Andre from Zebra BI was he's involved in that. I think I remember seeing uh, a podcast. I think it was Lars Schreiber did a podcast where Andre talked about that. So yeah.
And so what I'd like to do is I'm just monitoring the chat in case there's any questions. But I also just want to flip over and show both people like where to actually check out the course, and then also talk about more Skillwave from a holistic level as well. So let me pop
Sure.
this over to here, and I will get. Here we go. Perfect. Want to get the screen. All right, and let me transition. There we are. So for those of you tuning in, on my website, if you want to check out the course, the link is also in the description directly of this YouTube video. So down below is a direct link to the Skillwave site with that. It's also available if you go to Havens Consulting Services and Offerings. I basically just have an online courses page with a brief summary, lifted and shifted from Skillwave, but it allows you to see it from here. And then if you want to navigate, there's a learn more or purchase, which will take you over to the Skillwave site itself. And this will load up here in a second. There we are. Um, and you guys are, I think, what platform are you actually using to host a lot of this? It sounds like WordPress, right? For the kind of the course navigation.
Yeah, look, it is WordPress. But we're also using LearnDash, which
Hmm.
is an addition to WordPress and a few other things. But I mean, this website took a lot of time to develop, and Miguel Escobar, he's the guy that deserves the credit for this. And as I said, he's got this eye, and so the look and feel of it is coming from him. But functionally, we really wanted to change the learning experience. So obviously we're trying to provide the information up front here, but we'll perhaps have a talk about the learning experience once you get into it. But yeah, it's a WordPress site, so most people are familiar with that, even if they don't know it's WordPress. And a lot of the
Yep.
websites out there are built on that platform.
And I mean, just a testament to like the quality of I would say the interface and everything else. Like it's one of those things where I know you had reached out to me, which also kickstarted my thinking on this. But I'm 3 courses deep now that I've built this video content, and the amount of work that goes into building a platform to host those, where it's not just here's a zip file with the videos and the files, just figure it out. Because if we actually go into it, if I go over to the main page, it breaks it down very well as far as being able to track like which videos have been watched. So there's progress plus a discussion forum that can where communication can happen both between I guess the course consumers and the instructor, which would be myself. So that's another thing that I'll also be doing with this is I'll be doing monitoring of any discussions, answering any questions pertaining to the course, and helping people out as they go through this. But the
Yeah.
interface as far as
So
a
this,
student structure does work out very well, I think, to be able to easily come back in a couple of weeks and remember exactly where you were, or again, to be able to field questions easily to the instructors of whatever course it might be.
yeah, exactly. Now, look, the website's not perfect. We're still
Hmm.
doing continuous improvement. So that lesson pane on the side, we were talking about that, Reed, earlier on, that at the moment it's not possible to expand more than one section at a time. But I mean, there's stuff like that. We're asking for feedback from people who are participating. In fact, Christian on the call has already given us some feedback, and we're trying to take those things into our main product. But I just want to talk about that forum that you mentioned. So down the
Go.
bottom. So one of the things we're really
Hmm.
proud of is this integration of the forum. So previously we used to have one forum per course, right? So if you're doing Power Query, you could only talk in the Power Query forum. And if you're doing, my DAX course, you're going to do
Hmm.
the DAX forum. And so we really want to change that and broaden the availability of this communication platform. Now, one of the things about free forums is you have to be a little bit careful the advice that you take, because anyone can give advice. Now, that's certainly true within our forum as well, because any of the participating people who've bought a course are also able to give results. But what we're planning to do with this particular forum is we're going to identify the best answers and flag them as being the best answer. And that work's going to be done by initially Ken, Miguel, and myself, and yourself as
Hmm.
well, Read, on your content, or any of our content too, for that matter, given that you've got a broad set of skills. But but the whole point is that if that course is, or if that comment is marked as the best answer, then it's good advice. And Reed, you and I were chatting offline earlier this week about another free forum where
Yeah,
someone asked a question and someone gave some advice, and it was completely wrong. And this person
yeah,
had quite a high status within the forum that I'm talking about. And how would you know? How would you know that the advice that you're being given is not good? And so, one of the key things about this forum that we're determined to get right is that if an individual gives advice and it's good advice, it'll be flagged as good advice, and as a reader that you can take that
yep,
as good advice.
yeah,
Let
and
alone the ability to
yep.
interact with the author of the course and ask questions, etc.
Well, and just the ability to moderate and also remove, like that other forum as an example. I don't know if how easy it is to even as another super user to be able to flag and say, hey, like this is wrong. Can we actually delete this, or at least flag it as incorrect? But with
Yeah,
our
yeah.
ability to have control over this, if threads start to go down that might become confusing, we can scrub those out to make sure that information provided is clear and concise to the end users. I did have a really good question come up from. Let me pop this onto the screen. There you go. So will you be regularly updating and adding more hours? So yeah, just to go back to here for a second. If you notice the pricing here, at the moment it is discounted for people for the kind of the first wave of buyers at 129. It's regularly priced at essentially 200 for the first year, and then a subscription after that. So the plan is to provide incremental updates to this. So not only as the modules that exist have features that might change in Power BI that would require, let's say, bookmarks comes up with some new stuff, and that needs to be tweaked because a new type of bookmark status has the ability to be formatted. That would get updated for that portion. New modules will also come out as well. At some point, I'm in the process of developing a module that will be on color theory and a few other things that are more about the artistic side of building reports, and that will be a new module that will get added on, which will actually add to the amount of hours that is already in the 3.5 in there. So that's what this subscription comes with. Is it's not only access continuously to the information that's there, but that means that in 12 months, if you come back, the modules that get updated will be mentioned that modules 1, 5, and 7 have had new updates to them, and there's now like a module 9 as an example.
Yeah, and more broad, and so that's great, Reed,
Hmm.
and absolutely. But it's also more broadly across the platform, right? So we offer, most of the courses are like this. In fact, all of them are like this at the moment. In the future, we do have a couple of courses in the pipeline that we may take a different approach, depending on how we end up. But keeping the content up to date is definitely a key part of this. So
Yeah.
so there's two things that come with a subscription. So one is the ability to go back and refer to it later and participate in the forums.
Hmm.
So it's very difficult for any training, for you to go through 100% of the training end to end and then shut down, move back to work, and have 100% knowledge retention. I mean, the truth is
Yeah.
that is very rare. So it tends to be more of an iterative process. So one thing you get with the subscription is the permanent access, and the second thing is the updated content. I'm not sure, people may not know, but delivering and creating good quality video content is very time consuming. I have a rule of thumb, 6 to 1. So if you want to
Uh-huh.
produce 1 hour's worth of video, it's about 6 hours of work. So you have to produce the content first, the slides. You have to do some practice runs. Then you have to record the video. Often you have to do some re-recording. Then you've got all the post recording editing, and depending on how good a job you did in the recording, has an impact on the editing, and then post recording processing and uploading and stuff. So it is actually a lot of effort, and that's the reason why. But we try and keep that renewal price relatively low to the absolute value of the content. So in your case, yeah, $29 a year. And I guess people will judge, right? It's either worth keeping or it's not, and we're fine with that. So the challenge is for you, Reed, to keep it up to date. And just I've seen comments come through where people say, this is absolutely worth renewing on other courses, and so people will be their own judgment. We're really also very upfront. We're not trying to trick people into signing up or renewing. So we do things like, so when you sign up, it is a 12-month subscription. We make sure 30 days before the renewal is up, you'll get an email saying that you're currently scheduled for renewal on this date, and then a week before, we'll send you another email telling you. We give you clear instructions how to opt out of the subscription if you want to do it. So we're not trying to do anything other than add value in an ongoing sense, and we'll make that completely available and visible to everybody.
Yeah, and like you said, depending on the course, some things get updated more or less. As far as feature changes goes, DAX doesn't change that much. That's probably one of the slower moving ships. But from a report perspective, Microsoft puts most of its eggs in the user feature basket when it comes to like updates pretty regularly. So I do know that like again, a great example is like bookmarks or report tooltips, visuals that are available as far as the native visuals. There's probably going to be some more AI visuals that will come out at some point. There's no section that in mine that really talks about the small multiples that's available now, that's come out of preview. So that's at some point going to be something that's going to funnel into here, because that's a discussion on if you need to display multiple variances of a data point rather than showing 45 visuals on your page. You can have the one. So plenty of opportunities to have this constantly change.
Yeah.
A great question that also just popped up from Nick. I'm going to send this over again. There we go. So
yeah,
will
so I
he
was
need?
looking at this one myself, and
Yeah.
so yeah, maybe I can take this one. So what's going to happen, of course, is that maybe someone signs up, they do the lesson, and then how do they know that there's a new lesson that's come in? So we have a newsletter, and we have an update. Now, if I'm not sure, Reed, I'm not actually driving here, but if you go back to the course page, maybe Reed, there is a status section. So this is the dashboard. So you need to go back to click on the Skillwave logo. Yeah, so here. Now, if you go further down, there's actually a version section right down the bottom, I think you'll find. It might be under the question there. So see the course update log. So we put in here all the changes that we make appear in this course update log. And so changes could be a change to an existing video. Now, when you do a course, you mark a lesson. When you do a lesson, you mark the lesson as complete. That way you keep track of where you're going. And so therefore, if there's a new lesson that comes in, it won't be marked complete. We always update the course log, and we package the change, so we're not just dripping it in. So in fact, in Skillwave, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school, we've got an update for the Power Query Academy coming out next week. So I've actually been working on that, and just sort of coming back to the earlier point that we're talking about, Reed. So with the forum, so one of our participants, Tom, asked a question in the forum about how do I solve this particular problem using Power Query, and it was a really interesting problem, and it wasn't something that was easy to answer in the forum. So we said, that's it. I'm just going to do a video. So it ended up being sort of a 40-minute video and I actually step people through how I solve that particular problem using Power Query. So anyway, that content's coming out next week. We'll update the course log, and we'll send out an email to everyone that's subscribed. In fact, I think it goes out to everyone, telling them that there's new content as well. So nothing will slip through without you knowing. It's we're not going to go back and make a change to an existing lesson and then not advise the people that are involved. So yeah, it's a good question.
I've got a couple others that I'll throw up to here as well. So one from Bharat, the price for subscriptions, is that on a course by course basis, or all courses based on Skillwave?
So the subscription is a course by course basis, but the forum is across the entire platform. So as long as you have a subscription with one course, you'll have full access to the entire forum. but the individual courses and the subscriptions are on a topic by topic basis. Now, I know that's not the same with some other. So if you go into Audible, for example, with
Yeah.
Audible, I think you get access to multiple books and stuff. So different platforms do it different
Yep.
ways. I mean, this is the way we decided to do it. We try and keep the price of the individual renewals and subscriptions relatively low. So,
Yep.
but yeah, that's the way we do it.
And in general too, you like when you purchase any of the courses, you have it already for a year. So by the time that you hit 12 months, you're going to have a really good idea for yourself whether or not you want a subscription. Some people will, some people won't, but it's not something that
Yeah,
has to be decided immediately. You have a full year to kind of figure out if this is something you'd want to, pay a little extra for
yeah,
to have access to for another year or any years after that. And also,
yeah. And
get
we
an
get a mix of
understanding of
both. We
changes.
get a
Go
mix of
ahead.
both. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
as I said, yeah. So
Yep.
it's up to you.
On,
I see another question there from
yes, right here.
yeah, that one. Yeah. So is there? The short answer is no. Great question though. So I got to say, so I'm doing some consulting work for a client at the moment and I'm building some Power BI reports for them, and it's pretty clear to me that they actually need paginated reports. There's some limitations. Limitations is the wrong word. PowerBI.com is designed for a certain report consumption experience. It's designed for a live interactive experience. It's not designed for having full pages of
Yep.
content that you need to print out or send to a customer in a printed report. And so there is definitely a place for paginated reports. No, we don't have a training course on paginated reports. And I agree. I think that's a big opportunity. The trick is we need to find the right person to do that course. So
Yeah.
so we'll certainly take that one on notice. And I know Miguel Escobar is on the call, so Miguel might take a note about that, and then we can follow that one up, find the right person.
I heard Paginated Report Bear might have some time and he could build a course.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure, although Adam and Patrick work for Microsoft, and they've got this side gig going as well. So I don't know. Maybe we can speak to Chris Finnan and see whether he can produce a training course for us. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not, but
It's
that'd be a good
like,
place to start.
right? Yeah, I couldn't think of a better person than the guy who's helped basically create it and runs the project. So,
Yeah. So, but
uh,
we know some other people that are pretty good in this stuff. So we'll do some work on that.
another good question from Nick. It's actually going to pop that up. Here we go. Is there an all courses option with a multi-purchase discount? So,
It is.
yep,
It is a good question, and the answer is no. But I understand the purpose of the question. It's a fair question. So Miguel and Ken and I need to have a look at that. I mean, one of the challenges. Well, in fact, you don't care about our challenges. I guess that's that's the reality. I mean, from a consumer's perspective, it's a fair question. We just have to work out that model, particularly given that we're bringing in external people. How do we sort that out so that people are fairly remunerated for
yep,
the work that they put in creating the good content, right? So that's the main challenge. I think if it was just Ken McGill and I, it would be much easier. But
yep.
you're here now, Reed, and so we've got another course, hopefully not too far behind. I hope that person who's producing that course is watching this and is motivated to get that one to the end.
Yep.
So we'll have more coming. Okay, so thanks for the question, Nick. The fact that you asked it is good motivation for us to revisit that topic. But no, today is the short answer.
And what I'll do is just considering time and trying to keep this at about 30, I'll say for people watching, we'll give it about another 5 minutes to answer some questions because we're still getting some good ones in here, and then probably wrap up right around then. Christian had a really great one as well. Just a lot of these are kind of on potential upcoming courses. One is in this case on premium per user. It's about to be released to GA. Which is going to be great, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity for that. But at least when I read that, I envision almost like navigating the Power BI ecosystem, or sorry, pricing structure can almost be like a little mini course in and of itself in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Nick also made a comment that just about his enterprise pricing, or he's got some apprentices, so some people are basically starting out and they need to learn everything. So so I understand the context of that question.
I don't. Yeah, the
So
more that
people use, yeah.
I was just gonna say, the more
Oh,
that I
go
think
ahead.
about it, I almost feel like that's not even really something that should be necessarily you'd have to pay for, as just as like a 10-minute video that would just be on, or a blog, just really
About
because that.
PPU.
Yeah, exactly. Just explaining to people how to use it, because you're not really teaching them how to build anything. It's really just what should I buy at that point, right? For your
Yeah, yeah.
organization.
Yeah, and so and we may end up doing some free content. In fact, some of the other, just out of interest, some of the other ideas that we've had about content for this site, we thought about maybe doing some content for Tabular Editor, just some of the free community tools, and there's other stuff out there. I'm not saying we're the only providers here, but and so we may end up doing some free content. But as I said before, producing good quality content does take a lot of effort, and I
Hmm.
mentioned before, unlike some people have a full-time job, and I do this all day. Well, the flip side of I do this all day is I don't have a full-time job, and at some stage, you do have to earn a living, right? So that's why good quality content costs money.
And I will say, there's a question that somebody wanted to see the completed report. I'll open that up in a second to show you essentially all the components of what the end result is. Happy to show that. The other thing that I want to mention too is that Chris Finlan, who is in charge of kind of like paginated reports and everything, will be doing a live stream with me this Friday, and also talking about paginated reports, how that actually comes in and how that plays out with premium per user, and we're going to discuss a lot of pricing structure and scenarios for businesses. So if you're actually curious about that at all, there will be a live stream that will actually talk about much of that topic on Friday. But if
Yeah.
you have
So, Reed, I
anything to
see a
want to say on that,
question there.
I'm just going to pull up my
Sorry.
report. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just going to talk about that. So there's a question about the quality of the final reports once you've done the course. Have you got something that you can show there? So
Hmm.
just while Reed's digging something out, I mean, this was really what triggered me to reach out to Reed about producing this course. Is that Reed's got his own blog. He does his live streams. He does his YouTube videos and stuff. And I subscribe to that, and I keep getting these report pages. So the one that comes to mind maybe is the Google report, but there's many more, right? And so and it just jumped out at me as being, this looks fantastic compared with the look and feel of my reports. In fact, some people may know, depending if you've seen some of these other live streams, but I actually did some work for a client, and they wanted high quality reports, and I just reached out to Reed and said, "Do you want to do a pitch with me for this particular client, because your reports always look so good." Have you got a
Perfect.
report there, Reed, that you can share?
I do, and I'm just very quickly, for somebody who wanted a link to that, I'm just grabbing the link for my live stream for Friday just to drop into the chat, and then I can switch over and show the report that I now have pulled up. So where is he? There it is, Chris Finlan, and here's the link for everybody.
All
There
right,
we
so
are.
while you're posting that link, Christian also asked a question about data flows. So yes, Christian, we definitely have a plan of doing some work with data flows. In fact, there is we got some exciting stuff that we've got in the pipeline regarding data flows and training content. It's not going to be in the next couple of weeks, so just keep that in mind. But we see data flows as the next big wave of content for the Power Query
Hmm.
Academy.
And I will just make one slight correction to say not this Friday in a couple days. I do enough of these. I sometimes flip the Fridays around. So 8 days from now, the following Friday will be Chris Finlan and Paginated Reports. I thought that because I
Yeah.
just did a test stream with him earlier today. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my other screen. There we are. All right, so this is going to be the report that will be built out. That will include a lot of different things as far as building kind of the header section that you see here at the top, understanding kind of the concept of layering visuals, organization also as a flow, just as a kind of a teaser. In general, I try to lay them out in terms of kind of an order of the information you'd want to see first, second, and third, following somewhat of a natural trajectory of kind of left to right, top to bottom. So, make sure that there's a nice clean flow of information down into the list. Things that also go into some ideas of also using report tooltips, and even talking about some AI visuals such as the smart narrative visual that you can see that's being used in there. So a lot of concepts that I have collectively over like 130 videos on YouTube and other stuff combined into a cohesive story where we basically start from scratch and build a report like this out using concept data to really be able to go through every feature that's in here, understanding like the ability to then be able to create drill through pages, all of those things that, that collectively come together to a finalized report that we'll have in front of us.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, having sat through the course, well, first of all, to see this as the end state is, I think, gives a good indication. But there's work that goes into producing this report, but there's also knowledge, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're not clear what are the actual processes to do what you're showing me here, then you've got no way of doing it. Now, this is also, you're showing the desktop version, right? So it actually looks a lot better in the browser when it's packaged up as an app as well, because a lot of the things that you would normally turn off and teach how to turn off, the headers and that sort of stuff, disappear. But,
Exactly.
I'll give you a good example. I had lots of issues with headers overlapping and et cetera. And so that was one of the things that slipped through with my knowledge, which I'm now able to fix within my report. So don't get me wrong, there's work here. There's work to build this report, but you also have to understand, what options have you got? How do you do the configuration? Where do you find it quickly? Those sorts of things.
And there's plenty of opportunities where I like to kind of go theory and then application when it comes to applying this stuff. And I'll list through a lot of features, but very often, the way I've built it is kind of, reviewing a slide, but then for kind of explanation portions, it will, an image of me kind of will pop into the video talking about that. Like, all right, so I just mentioned that this does blank. Here's some of the reasons that it does do this and why it should. And here's some of the reasons that you need to make sure to check this on or off. So I go through each one and elaborate on a large portion of concepts about things to turn on and off or to configure in certain ways in the report based on best practices that I've accumulated and just been able to study from just building hundreds of these at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's any other questions, I think it probably is about good time to wrap up at this point. So I'll give it another couple seconds to see if anything else pops up. Otherwise, we can wrap up and call it a day. And just want to, again, we had probably between, about 20 to, I think our peak concurrent was 38 people tuning into this. So very appreciated. Again, if you are interested, the link is available on, I'll pop this up, either in the description of the YouTube video or directly from my website as well, just in a new online courses section that I built, and that will take you to the page for Skillwave for my course and then any of the other content that they have there as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, good to chat, Reid.
Yeah, Matt, again, thank you for tuning in. And again, just I'm sure for a lot of the people on the chat as well, it would be great to actually have you on some time to present some ideas or a topic that you'd like to present on as I continue to go through my MVP list and get a lot of my friends and colleagues on here. So,
sure, no problem. Looking forward to it.
I see one other question in there that looks like for something else, but I'll just answer that in the chat. Otherwise, Matt, have a good day, and everybody else, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you want to help support this channel, take a look at our channel memberships as well. And last but not least, please consider sharing this video on social media to help pass on this awesome content and to help the channel grow. So until next time.